Are you ready to stop the self-sabotage and create the life you desire? Well, in order for that to happen, you need to break free from the bad beliefs that are holding your success hostage. You need to optimize the stress by turning it into extra energy for success. And those hurtful habits? Well, we need to give that pain a purpose for progress. Welcome to Stop the Self-Sabotage and Create the Life You Desire podcast. You've been through some stuff in your life, no doubt about it, right? I mean, you would not be listening to this podcast if it wasn't for that. But you're still standing. You still made it. You're still moving forward. And I have a question for you. You got out of that painful insert problem. You got out of that painful relationship. You got out of the abuse from your past. You got out of the financial hardship. But is that painful problem out of you? Because see, the brain, when it experiences overwhelming trauma, and I don't diagnose, I don't tell you what's traumatized you or not. I just give you the space and the place for you to decide for yourself, because I want you to be empowered that way. I've had somebody say, what if I decide wrong? Well, there's different levels of self-care. And if you feel like you've been through a trauma, there's going to be more self-care involved. Does that sound like a bad thing? And when I say self-care, I'm not talking about bubble baths and sitting around burning your incense and chanting while you hold on to your rocks. No, I'm talking about drawing better boundaries that bless, finding out exactly what is valuable about you that should be respected and honored, and how to have those hard conversations so life will be easier later on. Okay, so is that painful experience out of you? Because there's actually a process for you to go through. And I had a long-term client ask me this just the other day. She was in a shit show. Some things really blew up. Here's the thing. Life isn't going to go away just because you have higher levels of awareness on achievement in a healthy way. In fact, it actually gets more stressful, but you learn to optimize the stress. But this was so stressful, she got overwhelmed. And when we are overwhelmed by pain, we get passive. Remember that. And while we can have friends that go, okay, yeah, maybe think about this or think about that, or let me help assist you with this, you actually need an authority figure to come in and go, let me show you how to lead yourself out. Because you've got to give the pain a purpose for progress based on the vision of who you really are, not what this problem conditioned and programmed you to believe that's a bunch of bullshit. But bullshit can be used as manure for your garden of growth. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a piece of paper and I want you to draw 4 categories, 4 columns. And while you're doing that, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. This is an exercise I take my private clients through for us to identify areas where they've moved through the problem, but we want to make sure that the problem is no longer with them. You know, I've shared with you about the intense work I had to do on my own complex post-traumatic stress disorder, betrayal trauma, financial trauma, walking away from everything I owned. Could have walked away $150,000 to $200,000 bang for my buck in my bank account. And instead, I chose to walk away $75,000 in debt because it was the healthiest thing for me to get out of the relationship I was in. But I tell you what, my higher power told me, I didn't get you out of that bad relationship just for you to take it into any other future relationships that you might have. And as far as the money isn't the most important thing with the debt load that I walked away with. It's not the most important thing, but it touches everything that is. And I had to walk away with a level of faith based on what I had been able to achieve in the past to say, I know I can move forward. So you have to do it at a level that's appropriate for you. What was right for me, someone else might go, oh, that's nothing. Somebody else might go, oh my gosh, that would so emotionally flood me that I don't know if I could get out of bed, which is the reason why when you read a book or you take an online course, you have to keep in mind it is not being customized to you. So you have that awareness. When people come to me, they have typically tried 8 major things that have failed them. Notice how I said failed them. They didn't fail it because for whatever reason, there wasn't the nuance that was taking place to bring the client out at their best. They were trying to force themselves to fit it instead of making it fit them. Okay, let's go back to our 4 columns. Here's the title that I want you to put on the first one, wounded. Second one, healing. Third one, healed. Fourth one, susceptible. Again, this is something that I take all of my longer clients through because after they work with me the first round, it's typically not going, okay, what about me is still fucked up that needs to be fixed. You know I don't subscribe to that. You are not broken. You are not flawed. You are not needing to be fixed. You just learned to cope in ways that are not the best for you. They helped you survive, but they will never help you thrive. They can't take you any further. Okay. So, under the wounded, we're not looking at the process first. You know, everybody goes, oh, how do I do this? What do I need to do? And think of it like this. Where you're sitting right now is where you are today, and your goal is out in the future. So there's space between you and your goal. And people are like, what do I fill that space with? The what and the how? It's the who. Who do you need to be? What's the identity that needs to be activated that's just been kind of languishing around and not serving you? And there's something known as the law of polarity. The law of polarity says everything is created as a whole. So for there to be an up, there's a down, for there's an inside, there's an outside. If you and I were on Zoom together right now, I would see your front side, but I know you got a back side. It's in the same place. Well, in the same place that the part of you that went through that unrelenting pain that caused these problems, well, in the same place as that is your wise woman. It's the part of you that holds the progress. But she hasn't been given permission to show up. And she can't be given permission to show up without this. Under wounded is the identity, the age you were when the experience took place that you could not handle. Now, some people go, oh, I know what it was. I was working with, I work primarily with women, but also some very wise men. And I was working with a gentleman that said, I know exactly when it was. I was being groomed by one of my teachers. So I was like 12 years old. Okay, great. I've had another guy go, yeah, I think it's whenever I was cut from the team and my dad walked away from me because he was using me to live through. And it wasn't actually anything that dramatic at all. It was him being excluded from playing with the other boys in the neighborhood because he was clumsy. So here he thought it was this big pivotal moment of his dad walking away, and it wasn't. It was his peers that didn't want to have anything to do with him. Okay, so sometimes we can think that we know the point of origin, and we'll be right. And sometimes we're not, but we know it is a wounded younger you. So that's what goes under the wounded column. What goes under the healing column? What's on the other side of her? Your wise woman or wise man. I call it the goddess or Adonis. It's the part of you that knows how to move forward, that has all of the experience that you've gone through in life, that has every book, every class, every workshop, every audio, every video that you've ever experienced that had some sort of emotional content, and you're like, yes, I think that can work for me. She possesses all of that. But before she can be brought out for healing, you have to give the wounded part of you something new to do. Because she ain't going to go away. There was something that she was supposed to express in life instead of prioritizing pain. And so that's what needs to take place. And then your wise woman can step up. Healed. What goes under that column? It's when your wise woman and the younger you pull together in a partnership. They're operating together. They're pulling together, not pulling you apart. And so there's a process for that. But know that when you're in the wounded category, you will ask wounded level questions of how to get out of this. You were taught to prioritize short-term relief over long-term revelation, the revealing of yourself and who you really are. Now, once you successfully integrate those two parts of you into an incredible team that'll take you to the top, you need to be aware you're still going to be susceptible. So let me ask you this question. What's the difference between being sick and being susceptible? Maybe with the flu. What's the difference between being sick and being susceptible? If you're sick with the flu, you're actively experiencing it. And you're having to do things to come out the other side. You're actively wounded and healing. And then you're healed and you don't have the flu anymore. But it may have left you to where you can be exposed to certain things that will allow you to get sick again a little bit easier. So you need to know, what are you susceptible to? What can trigger those old experiences and habits? Okay, so we have experiences, we have habits, we have patterns. Experiences are things that you've been through one time that were of intense emotional nature that actually creates an imprint. An imprint is a filter that we will run future-like experiences through. I had an amazing imprint whenever I was 15, and my mom and dad took all of us kids, there were 4 of us, down to the Panhandle in Florida with their sugar white beaches and their turquoise water, and we spent a week there. And it was a dream come true. Well, my parents wound up relocating. My dad's passed on, mom's down there. And when I go down to visit her and I go to the beach, that younger me gets triggered all over again of, how wonderful is this? Which is why so many people like the beach, because they get to be a kid again, right? So we can have imprints that are beautiful. And then we can also have imprints that hold pain. I think I told you all about the time during that vacation when I was out on a raft and floating, and My dad was floating next to me. The seas were absolutely calm. And I remember hearing my dad off in the distance hollering my name. And I had fallen asleep on the raft with my head on my arms crossed underneath me. And so my head's to the side, and I open my eyes, and my dad's on the beach. And I'm trying to comprehend. He was just right next to me. I really must have fallen asleep hard. How is he on the beach? But I couldn't fully comprehend it because the shark fin cut off my vision of him because I was being circled by a shark. See, earlier, my dad was awake enough to hear the man running down the beach that at that time, I'm 60 now, so this was a few decades ago. The beach wasn't quite as crowded as it is now. There was a man running down the beach screaming, "Shark, shark, shark." My dad heard him, saved himself, didn't give me a second thought until he got back on the beach, and then realized I wasn't behind him. And now the shark is circling me. And that's when I came to an awareness, an imprint was created that the men that are supposed to protect me will probably leave me, abandon me, and cause me more pain. Now, the shark realized that I wasn't anything tasty that he wanted to get into and wound up after a few circles around me swimming off. It created one heck of an imprint. Boy, let me tell you, when I'm in the water now, I keep my eye on the open ocean besides having lifeguards around me. So we can have imprints that bless us and also, wow, can cause harm. So we want to become aware of what has caused you harm in the past. What are you susceptible for? So you can begin to catch the symptoms that might be showing up before it becomes a full-blown illness. Now, even if it does become a full-blown illness, aren't our bodies amazing that once we've caught something, it typically learns, and the next time that we come down with it, we don't have to catch it for as long? Yeah, because our body has adapted. But with the wounded part of you, if you're not aware of how you can go back in to prioritizing pain, and that you will come from the identity. See, our bodies adapt. When they come down with something like a germ, and then that germ leaves, the body adapts and typically will have defenses that if that germ should invade again, if it even can, it gets it out quicker, faster, and easier. But when we come from a wounded imprint, we're not coming from the part of us that adapted, our wise woman. We're coming from the age we were when that imprint took place. So we need to know how you're susceptible and say, oh, let's address this. So when these triggers show up, they have a different meaning. They no longer trigger pain and how to get away, but now they have a meaning that they're going to trigger progress, pain into progress for purpose of your vision of who you really are. It's going to bring you out stronger. It's going to bring you out quicker mentally. It is going to allow you to process much faster and say, do I even want to own this? Okay, if I can assist you with this process. 1-636-699-7791. You can text me that you want to consult with me. It'll actually be a coaching call. I guarantee I will give you a tip, tool, or technique that you can use immediately for some relief. You will not get resolution, but let's get you out of the current situation and then start looking at if I'm the right fit to get it out of you. So you can text me that you want a coaching call. You can go to my website, dawnlandrum.com, and click on the link and set up the coaching call there. Okay. I know you can do this. I'm 100% assured. Why? Because you were brought into this world because it would be better with you here. So now it's you learning the better parts of you that have been hidden by the pain and utilizing them to take you to the top. I'm 100% sure that you can do this. I have faith in you. Until you can develop your own belief and faith, just borrow mine.